Well, hello and welcome back to the House of Hammer. I'm Ben Taylorson and I'll be your guide this time, but don't bother to take your shoes and coat off as we're actually doing a U-turn and heading straight back out of the house and down to the track for some high-octane racing action as we take a look at Hammer's 1954 car racing drama action thing, Mask of Dust. So, polish your carburettor, change your spark plugs and grab your crankshaft because things are going to get racy. Speaking of which, Kev's down in the pit lane covered in oil. Try to remain calm, ladies, where he's going to tell you how Mask of Dust fits into the wider history of the car racing movie.
Whereabouts does Mask of Dust or Race for Life fit in terms of motor racing cinematic history? I only know of a few racing movies and wondered how many there were. After all, sports movies as a genre is a very big playing field indeed, as Smokey discovered when he had a look at the Flanagan Boy and boxing. I was so wrong to suspect that there's nowhere near as many films about motor racing as punching each other, because even a few thousand games of Rock'em Sock'em Robots has to be way cheaper than creatively parking a Formula 1 car into a wall. So showing due diligence, I avoided the usual pitfall, or pit stop, of running off into Wikipedia and went instead to one of the current Formula 1 racing teams' websites. This wasn't the bright idea I thought it'd be. According to Red Bull, the all-time top 5 racing films, of which they then go on to list 6, are Grand Prix from 1966 in pole position, where they say, and I quote, "one of the first and still one of the best motor racing films around today." The article and the research gets gradually worse from there, so I'll put a pin in that and begin with what came before 1966. Mask of Dust is a given, but racing movies are on the grid in the silent age, with 1913's The Speed Kings, starring Fatty Arbuckle, and by the time Howard Hawks had teamed up James Cagney and Joan Blondell for 1932's The Crowd Roars, the love affair between man, machine and movie was well and truly cemented. The Crowd Roars is notable for creating what would become the well-worn trope of the racer who's lost his nerve and must fight his fear and all his inner demons in order to make that comeback. And in fact, Mary Alden's Pat in Mask of Dust echoes Joan Blondell's Anne Scott as the love interest that doesn't want to see her man go out in a blaze of glory. Literally. As you'd expect from a pre-code film, there are plenty of sequences that will make you wince, but none more so than a couple of drivers having a bit of a chat while they're racing. Amongst the landslide of films that feature cars going fast and loud, Formula 1 is a surprisingly small pebble in there. Now don't get me wrong, there's plenty of adventure to be found with our four-fended friends, so I'll cherry pick a few you might have forgotten or just don't want to think about. The Great Race in 1965 was so great it brought back Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon as a double act for their second and sadly last time. Tony Curtis must have really loved racing in cars, because Monte Carlo or Bust 4 years later bears a lot of similarities to the Great Race, including Curtis. And this time he's battling Terry Thomas with Peter Cook and Dudley Moore bringing their Dawlish branded mayhem. 1968 saw the start of the Herbie film franchise for Disney, where a VW Beetle with a mind of its own gets up to all kinds of mischief, from saving a little old lady's firehouse in San Francisco to trying to get his big end away with a Lancia in Monte Carlo. And all before mutating and making Lindsay Lohan wear a crash helmet. Disney stuck with cars having a life of their own and would later get Pixar to give them teeth, despite them running on petrol. Elvis would get in on the whole act, of course, with Viva Las Vegas, but in that, he was more obsessed with Anne-Margaret than the motor racing. All of these are very entertaining, but the racing is just a device. When a film concentrates more on the machines than the less than chatty drivers, you end up with 1971's Le Mans, where Steve McQueen has less lines to say than the ones on his forehead. And his acting method simply consists of him walking around looking like he can smell something rotten. It's a brilliant film if you like watching Porsches race around a track for nearly 2 hours though, so if that's your thing, fill your boots. Speaking of cars going around, it's not surprising that NASCAR gets a strong showing on the big screen. This relatively new American sport that originates from running moonshine had its first official race in September 1950, and it must be a godsend for filmmakers. All they have to do is stick the camera in the middle of a loop and watch cars go a little to the left for a while. 1968's Speedway is by no means a classic, but we do get more Elvis, and why not? But then there's the undisputed champions of this subgenre that both star John C. Reilly. Days of Thunder from 1990 has to be the most orange-looking film the film can get, and Talladega Nights, the ballad of Ricky Bobby, taught us all the very important life lesson: always remember, if you ain't first, you're last. Wrapping things up for now, and we're back to the Red Bull list I mentioned earlier. While it's correct in saying Grand Prix from 1966 is the best racing film ever, after mentioning the incredible Senna documentary and Ford vs Ferrari, it would be remiss to not highlight the importance of Ron Howard's Rush from 2013, that brings us Hammer's second lap of the track. It was partly funded by Tim and Tyler Thompson, the father and son team that had previous success with the studio's retelling of The Woman in Black. Like I've said before, when it comes to the film world, more often than not, there'll be a Hammer connection somewhere.
Cheers, Kev! Mask of Dust is another Hammer effort directed by Terence Fisher, this time starring Richard Conte as an ageing F1 driver. And it's yet another Hammer picture with an alternate title. In the UK it was Mask of Dust, but in the United States it was first Race for Life and then reissued as Races from Hell, which, let me tell you, is quite misleading. It was also titled The Circuit of Death for a Portuguese release, and With the Accelerator at the Bottom for the Danish audience. But why do films get released with different titles in different territories? Well, for commercial reasons. Marketability and ultimately money are at the heart of many title changes. Naturally, a movie will be given a title which is felt will help it sell. So if it's felt the title may impede that ability to make money, it'll be changed. Linguistic or cultural differences might mean that some titles are not easily understood in certain parts of the world, they could be confused with other movies, or maybe even considered offensive. This said, a movie may end up with more than one title for a variety of different reasons in addition to just global marketability. Different cuts of films, be it extended cut, director's cut, uncut, recut, supercut, uppercut, undercut, shortcut, crosscut, crew cut, clear cut, or woodcut, can warrant different titles. Some films can also be retitled mid-production or after a first marketing round, or perhaps at a festival appearance, be it successful or otherwise. Titles can also be altered for post-theatrical releases on, say, Blu-ray or DVD or VHS back in ye olden days. But let's get to the bit of this segment that we're all itching to get to. Well, you are if you're like me. Let's have a look at some amusing alternate titles for well-known movies from all over the world. In every single case, I say the alternate title is actually better. Number 1. Die Hard with a Vengeance, released in Denmark as Die Hard, Mega Hard. Number 2. The Sixth Sense, released in China as He's a Ghost. Slight spoilers. Number 3, sticking with a literal theme, Leaving Las Vegas was released in Japan as I'm Drunk and You're a Prostitute, which, quite frankly, reads like the minutes of a House of Hammer production meeting. Number 4, in Israel, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs became It's Raining Falafel. Hallelujah. Number 5, iconic shark flick Jaws was released in France as The Teeth of the Sea, which sounds altogether more philosophical, I feel. Number 6, The Waterboy, arguably Adam Sandler's finest contribution to cinema, was released in Thailand as the rather wonderful Dimwit Surges Forth. Number 7, the hugely overrated mockumentary This Is Spinal Tap was released to a Norwegian audience simply as Help, We're in the Pop Industry. Number 8, Vin Diesel's ill-fated mid-noughties move into comedy gave the world The Pacifier, which is known in Russia as The Bald He Babysitter, A Special Task. Back to France for some controversy here, with the beloved Jamaican bobsleigh comedy Cool Runnings was released as Rasta Rocket. And number 10, finally, my personal favourite, owing to its simplicity, the Terminator, known in Poland as Electronic Murderer. But sadly, we must now head back to Mask of Dust. I should spell out, this is not a dust mask. It is, in fact, a mask comprised of dust. The facial dust one acquires by one's face colliding with airborne detritus at high speed during a racing car race. Anyway, our hero, sort of, is Peter Wells, as played by the aforementioned Richard Conte. In his prime, he was the best racing driver out there. But during World War II, Peter left the racing world behind to serve for his country, and now in peacetime he's returned to the track. Trouble is, he's lost his edge. And there's strong competition all around him, in the form of youngsters Rossetti and Alvarez, as well as Peter's teammate and best pal, Pic Pic.
How's she behave for you, Peter?
Fine. Brakes need a little tightening, that's all. Nothing serious.
You looked wonderful from up in the stands, darling, didn't he, Pete?
It was good to be out there. I'm going to run the tires off you and Rossetti tomorrow.
Yeah, good.
Johnny, let's have a look at those lap times.
Hey, Mr. Wells. Sorry it's got a drop of oil on it.
That's all right. Give my brakes a going over, will you?
Right, sir.
58. 59. Johnny, this doesn't make sense. Are you sure these are the right figures?
We checked them with controls, sir.
Their watches must be wrong. I know I was going faster.
May I see, please?
What's the trouble, Peter? Didn't Johnny warm up your engine?
He warmed her up all right. I guess I only thought I was going faster.
Maybe you forgot your gears, Wells. Then what was the matter, Peter?
My ignition wasn't working right. You could hear from the stands.
All right, stop it. All of you.
Peter's wife Pat wants nothing more than him to quit racing. She's seen firsthand what a dangerous sport it is and fears that the track could ultimately take Peter's life. She'd like to have a baby but won't see one born into the oily, transient world of Formula One. Pic urges Peter to take Pat's advice, there's a little tongue twister for you, and Pic announces that the next race will be his last as he's quitting the sport to get married. That's just to clarify, Pic is quitting, not Peter, on Pat's advice.
You changed, Peter.
Changed?
You used to go down to the track at the crack of dawn.
It's the smell of the gas and oil. I breathe in too much of it. My stomach starts to flip. It's nothing. It'll pass.
Well, I hope so. Because if I don't win today, and someone has to beat me, I'd rather it's you than anyone else. It's my last race.
Your last race?
Yes, I told Bellario yesterday. I'm getting married.
Getting married?
Well, what am I? The last man in the world?
Who is she? Do I know her?
No. Girl named Elena from Rome. Doesn't know one end of a car from another, thank goodness.
It's not going to be the same without you, Pic.
I've been in it too long. Time I settled down, as Guido says. Time I packed my bags and got out. Besides, marriage and racing, they don't mix.
At the next race, a tragedy ensues that puts Peter at a crossroads in his life. He must choose between the woman he loves or the fight to prove one last time that he still has what it takes to win.
All right, Peter.
What do you mean, all right?
You've made up your mind. I can't fight you any longer. I can't stop you.
So let's head over to the round table to hear what we all thought of Mask of Dust. There I'm joined by Kev and Smokey.
Okay, Mask of Dust. Let's get this out of the way now. How much do you know about Formula One? Ben?
Formula One from the 1950s, not very much, Kev. More of a fan of Formula One of the 90s, noughties, 10s and 20s, I suppose.
Yeah, same for me. I was a bigger fan in the sort of 90s and early 2000s. I'm not so much now, but yeah. But no, same as Ben. 50s motor racing? No, nothing.
No, same here. Bizarrely, I know very little. I didn't even realise this was Formula One. The cars just looked like the cars that I used to have on my first Scale X Streak set. But
well, now you know why.
Yeah. But I couldn't tell which one were red or blue. And I used to watch the first corner pile up on World of Sport in the 70s because that were always fun. But that's about it. I only know Formula One from racing car movies, so this was quite a surprise.
I think what you can tell from our limited exposure in this film is that safety was not a priority in the 1950s.
No, not at all. Yeah, sorry to flash right towards the end of the film, but yeah, there's a horrific crash where it looks like whoever's driving died.
Yes.
And the guy commentating on it just goes, "Oh, does this guy? Yeah, he's probably dead." But anyway, who cares about that? Let's get back to the race.
Yeah, there's two. There's the Belgian and then number 37, the Gladiator. The first one is the Belgian that you see the guy fly out and you think, oh my, that doesn't look too healthy at all. And then number 37, the Gladiator, you see him get rolled over by his car.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to leave this in the film. Okay.
They left it in the film. Yeah. And didn't care about it.
Now that's blasé, if ever you needed blasé.
Just a little.
Check the number. It's 37, Ferris and the Gladiator, so there's no change on the leaderboard, and still the battle between Wells and Alvarez rages on with only feet between them.
Actually, going on then from the safety aspect, do you feel that Pat was justified in trying to make Peter become less of a racing driver and more of an aircraft pilot?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Because, the last race of the film and he's, driving with oil all over his face and constantly smoky feet, which I do love, by the way, is that the smoke never gets worse. It's always the same puff of smoke that's around his ankles. And yet he's increasingly worried about it, but it's like, I wouldn't worry. It's just the same. It's not getting any worse for you. But I think look, if he was a war pilot and he survived, so keep him in the plane. I think keep him out the car.
See, I agree that Pat is very justified in her opinion, but you've shot straight to the heart of the real issue with this film. Is the danger to life is the would-be dramatic fulcrum of this film. We should be watching and thinking, oh my God, this is so dangerous. These men are insane, but we can see why they live, these fast lives for the adrenaline. But that's all in the script, but none of it comes over in the film for two reasons. One, the characters are underdeveloped, so we don't know or care a great deal about why they're risking their lives to do this. And two, unfortunately, there is a sort of an incident that happens halfway through the film that the whole film hinges on, and we don't get to see it, either because Hammer didn't have the budget or because they cut it out of this version.
Ah, right. Well, this is where I can really start to fill the blanks in, because this is one of the very few times where we've had the luxury to watch both the US and the UK cuts. The US is notoriously 10 minutes shorter on its original release and then 15 minutes shorter on its eventual re-release. But in both versions, they still keep the pivotal crash in. They cut everything else out, but they keep that in. And yet the UK one has it missing completely, and it's a major plot point.
Yeah, it's absurd, really. The film doesn't work without seeing what happens to this poor guy. And what we get is a phone call on what I've called the telephone of doom, because no good news ever comes through that telephone to tell us that this character that we spent the first half of the film getting to know and getting to quite like, because he's oh, by the way, he's met a sad demise, but we're not going to show you, really, because you don't need to know, just trust us. And it's like that, but if the whole point of your film is that this is such a dangerous sport that Pat is willing to risk her marriage to to our hero for it, we kind of need that payoff, and that was a bit poor.
Yeah, exactly. And then, to sort of pour salt in the wounds, it's like saying, well, you're not going to see that. You're just going to see him in hospital, covered in bandages. Could be bloody anyone under there.
He looked like either Lance Murdoch from The Simpsons or the Invisible Man, I would say.
Very, very much a Chevy Chase thing going on there. But it was just sort of like, but then also is the fact is that, we're getting this really dramatic scene of two great friends, one going to the great beyond and they're getting to finally say goodbye, and the priest comes in and shoves him out of the way to give him the last rites. It's like, whoa, no, let him have that moment.
I do love the fact that he's still committed to the sport, though, because when his mate actually comes in and he's completely bandaged up and he's only got a straw hole, he still says, did you win?
Did you win?
How's your car?
And wouldn't you just lie to him and go, yeah, I did?
Yeah, well, yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Actually, thinking about it, you wouldn't say, no, I just finished and walked off.
I know you can't see it because you've got bandages over your eyes, but I've got the trophy right here.
Yeah.
Honest.
Just like hit some metal and go, hear it, clink, clink.
I feel like there's, to sort of compound on your theory as well, Ben, I feel like there's not a lot of element of danger because every car driver you see in this looks well into his late 40s, if not his early 50s. I mean, it was like, it's a young man's sport. It always has been.
There's some serious beer bellies going on, squeezing into those Formula One cars.
Well, the German one, we've got, what's his name from Hello Hello?
Yeah, the general.
Yeah.
But there is a history of that throughout this particular sort of subgenre of films. Is it always seems to be a bit of wish fulfillment going on? There's always like the casting director. Oh yeah, like you can see that middle-aged man really wants it, to have his moment. Let's make him the main rival to our superstar. Notoriously, of course, the best example is when Don Simpson wrote himself into Days of Thunder, as a competitor to Tom Cruise, and they just said, "Oh yes, Don, that's great." Then edited him all out at the end of it.
Do you know, it reminded me of Dennis Quaid in Any Given Sunday. He's like 50 with no knees, and they're going, "Oh, he's the one who's going to save our team," and it's like, nah.
Because even the other film that's very much like this, that Kev and I have talked about off mic, which is called Grand Prix, which is effectively the same plot, just it's stretched out over 3 hours. It's exactly the same in that. You look at the racing drivers and you think, well, they're not racing drivers, they're 55-year-old balding men. Sure, what's happening here?
Actually, come to think of it, at least Grand Prix is stretched over 3 hours because it does have more than 2 car races in it.
It does. And also, they actually, I mean, we're not, obviously, I know we're not talking about that film, but I can't help but make the comparison. Another thing that really lets this film down is the back projection, because it just takes you well and truly out of the moment. You just think, oh yeah, okay, here's some stock footage, great, yes, these racing cars are moving quickly. Oh, there's a man turning a steering wheel with a big screen behind him, looking stupid in a mask. I'm really not interested anymore.
I mean, that goes along with what you were saying earlier, though, about the characters being underdeveloped. So you've got them in their cars with their helmets on and their goggles and that, and I couldn't tell who half of them were. But then also the commentators are rattling off so many names to people we never meet.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know, are they good? Are they bad? Do we want them to lose or win? I don't know. And it was just, we needed more than what we were given.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole character that's cut out of the US version. We get to see Alvarez in the UK version, who is the Italian driver, and he's a bit of a Bible basher, and you see him go into chapel to pray before his first race and what have you. None of that is in the US version, but you don't get the payoff because you're expecting there to be a payoff where Alvarez turns out to be a cropper, but it's not. It's the Belgian. It's like, so Alvarez still makes it through the whole film unscarred. Maybe God was his co-pilot.
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But they don't really sell it either way. It's kind of a dead end, that.
Yeah, well, forgive the pun.
Hey.
No, I think there's a few issues like that as well. And again, obviously, you've already talked about it. It's more in the editing, unfortunately, than it is the film. in these various different versions where a plot is started and it just doesn't go anywhere. And you know from watching other films, they're laying the groundwork for it to mean something, and it just doesn't go anywhere. They just resort to the main plot, which is man must win race for some reason.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really it, isn't it? I mean, if you sort of you boil it down to sort of the log line for the film, it's a man must choose between love or destiny type thing. But it's what you write on a napkin.
Yeah,
that's not your whole ethos for an entire film.
It's a fortune cookie. It's not a philosophy for life. Yeah,
exactly. But you need substance, and this doesn't give you any substance because 1 minute the guy's thinking he's too old to drive. I mean,
which he is.
That. Well, yes, of course he is.
But they all are.
Then so's half the field. So he's not alone. But then it cuts to, his missus doesn't want to stick around. She wants to have a baby. She wants to go back to the US, whatever. And then, as you say, he just goes, no, I want to race for reasons.
Yeah,
that's so flimsy.
When you see other comparable films do very similar stories in a much more nuanced and emotive way that really gets you, and you think, I understand why she doesn't want her husband involved. I understand why he can't leave it because he's addicted to the speed and the adrenaline. But he doesn't even seem to like motor racing.
No.
Or his wife.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a good point. He hates his own sport and he hates his own missus. So it's like, well, which do you care about the least?
He likes playing the piano.
Loves playing the piano. Yeah.
Yes.
But that's about it, and that's just not enough.
The piano that is in his sordid hotel room.
Yeah, that was a weird line. Yeah, I don't want to be in his sordid hotel room next to a racetrack that was an absolute mansion.
Yeah,
it was
with its own piano. What? Mm-hmm. We do get to see a couple of character actors in this that we've seen before. We get Meredith Edwards, who played Dave in The Gambler and the Lady. In this one, he's playing Larry the Lush, who seems to be somewhat of a tragic fire hazard. I mean, why you would have him in your pit crew, I don't know, because he just leaves stuff on fire in ashtrays all over the place.
As we said, safety wasn't paramount in those days.
He was probably the safety inspector.
He's also, of all the unconvincing racing drivers, he is the least convincing racing driver, I'd also like to say.
Yeah.
He's always tanked up. He can't even see.
And he must be like 65,
yes,
but apart from that, yeah.
And he's racing the very next day, and he's getting slaughtered.
Yeah.
Like,
no, he's not racing. Remember, he had a bad accident at Monza,
yes, sorry.
which means he can't race. But I unless that bad accident was 35 years ago, I really can't understand, why it's got any relevance to anything.
Are 34 laps ahead of the starters, 340 miles of the most grueling course in European Grand Prix racing. A course guaranteed to test man and machine to the very limits of skill, courage, and endurance.
The next character actor has to be Paul Carpenter, who has more lines in this than he's ever had and has more lines than most of the cast, and yet he's uncredited.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, he puts the effort in. He sounds like a decent commentator. He actually seemed to be enjoying himself as well, but I could only guess that for once we've seen him, he doesn't have a fist in his face. So that's a big difference for Mr. Carpenter.
I was expecting a car to fly through the window at any moment.
Wipe him out.
Yeah. Well, it's
Final destination.
He's had it coming.
I wanted the little bloke who sat next to him writing everything down to just hit him out of nowhere. It's like complete the circle, mate. Go on.
Smashing me a typewriter.
No.
I much preferred him to the first commentator that you get in the film, who was just like Alan Partridge.
Raymond Baxter as well.
Yeah.
I'd say a bit more of a natural presenter than an actor though, because he did sort of ums and ahs and fluffed his lines a little, but hey-ho.
Yeah.
And there was something about his trite tone that really reminded me of Alan Partridge as well. It was like he was trying to inject charisma where there was none to be found.
Liquid motor racing.
Which probably explains why most of his role is cut out of the US version.
Yeah, I mean, we should point out, though, isn't it? I mean, that's quite important, is that the film has two major race scenes in it.
Sequences,
and
yes.
if it wasn't for the commentators, I would have had no idea what the hell was going on.
No.
Now,
Because, fair enough, it's in black and white, but you could see the numbers on the cars. But that's not, no. I still wouldn't have been able to follow it if someone wasn't telling me what I was watching.
I thought, was quite an educational insight into what motor racing was like in those days. Because obviously now there's cameras all over the place, and everyone knows it's sort of a full 360 understanding of what's going on. But if it wasn't happening right in front of you, or you couldn't see it with your binoculars, which they literally use at some point.
Yeah.
I mean, and the second circuit they're talking about, which I suspect is meant to be the Nürburgring, is 10 miles long. So you think, it's going to be over hill and dale. And that does at least explain when our poor character has a car crash and a fatal car crash. At least it is logical that might happen on a part of the track where no one, including the commentators, know about it, and they have to ring it in from the 3 miles away.
Yeah.
So that is an interesting side of it. But as you say, Smokes, without the commentary, all the cars look the same, all the drivers look the same, and no one's got any idea what's going on.
No. Okay, can I just say, Hill and Dale, wasn't he an actor in Robin Hood in the last movie?
Would you play by a chicken?
You're thinking, Damon Hill.
But no, I mean, that's it, isn't it? I mean, like, say, something like, say, a modern one, like, say, Rush. Okay? You're gonna... It's so easily, instantly recognisable who's who and who's doing what. But, yeah, in this, you've got no chance.
It doesn't help that the pit stop, the pit lane, or whatever it is, that bit where the drivers come into, the garage bit where people...
Kev, you were doing fine.
I know.
Pit lane, it's fine.
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't laughing at you. I was laughing at the pit stops. These ultra high speed pit stops. Like, should we have a cup of tea?
Yeah, cucumber sandwich. But yeah, it doesn't help that they're trying to portray that it's two different circuits, and yet you've still got the same pit stop on both places.
Yeah,
it's still, true. And it's nice to see that Carreras manages to get his name across the billboard at the top as well. That's a nice sneaky bit, because obviously all the teams are made up because they can't use real team names for some reason.
If you in a blink and you miss it bit, though, you can see that it's Ferrari.
Absolutely,
I just noticed Ferrari appear a couple of times.
They do, they do. But it's I mean, you've got to suspend disbelief, don't you, with the majority of films you watch, and so that's fair enough. But as you say, when you don't even bother to change the set to differentiate from one place to the next, I mean, even on a small budget, that's just lazy.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I mean, they could have even changed the camera angle to make it look like a different pic, couldn't they?
There you go. That'll do. Yeah, anything. Not just the same place twice.
It's cheaper, though.
Well, yeah.
I mean, obviously, they've all got these Italian-sounding crews. Who do you think had the worst accents? Because let's face it, we're confronted with a bevy of ridiculous accents in this. Who do you think was the worst? Because I've got a particular favourite.
I thought young Guido Rossetti was just going to accent.
Yeah,
because it went all over the place.
Yeah, transcontinental is what? Yeah,
Guido, who I'm just looking up now, from that famous Italian suburb of Paddington. So yeah, that's his accent needed some work, shall we say? Who was yours then, Kev?
George Coulouris, who I'm pretty sure is an Englishman as well, but his was just ridiculous. It wasn't even Italian; it was more like Mars. I don't know what was going on with his accent. It starts off, the first scene you see him in is right at the beginning of the film. Him and Guido are actually sat on these stands watching cars go by, and I'm sat there thinking, are they actually having a bet to see who can have the most ridiculous accent in this scene? Because it's like the stakes get higher each line.
A British Greek, apparently.
Oh, right.
Was.
Yeah.
So that does that. Yeah, I can now that I've read that, I can kind of hear that in my head. There's certainly a bit of the Mediterranean going on
definitely.
in his voice there, but it's just not Italian. So.
No, that the accents got so heavy in that interaction that you're on about, Kev, that there was a couple of lines I just couldn't understand what they were saying.
You think I'm in the running?
With me and Peter in the race?
The great Peter Wells, eh?
This time last year you thought he was the only driver in the world.
Last year I was a starry-eyed beginner.
Now you're too good to be number 3, eh?
To him I am.
It's funny, though, because you say that about whether they're having a bet to see who could do the most ludicrous accent, but in the actual script, it's like they're almost having a bet on who's going to die in the car next.
But that, I mean, with the best one in the world, that should be the whole point of one of these films. But the problem is that we don't really care because the film doesn't lend itself to actually introducing you to who these people are. Again, how many times have we made that criticism about Hammer films so far?
Yeah, quite a few.
True, yeah.
Yeah. Although, maybe should give it a little credit. No murder mystery in this one at all.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's got to be, 95% of the films we've watched have all been based around a murder mystery?
I've just been thinking really hard, and there's not even a blackmail subplot in this. Oh, my God.
No blackmail, no murder mystery,
no intrigue.
No rain.
No. Oh, my word.
I know. How bizarre, isn't it? I mean, we've kind of gotten used to it. I mean, if you're going to be really, picky on it, I mean, Men of Sherwood Forest started off with a murder mystery.
Yeah.
Technically.
Yeah.
So, what I mean? So it's not like, it's like it happens even when you least expect it in a Robin Hood movie. But then you put it in a motor racing movie and no murder mystery at all.
To be honest, I was quite pleased though that this one was just a straight, this is what the film is and let's just have the film. It wasn't a murder mystery set in the world of Formula One. Like we've seen with other things, it was just yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which isn't a space film, it's a murder mystery set in a shed where they make a space Robin. But yeah, it's and I quite like it. Was a refreshing change, I have to say, on the back of Robin Hood, which again was markedly different to the noirs that we've had. It's nice to have a run of a couple of things that were different, even if it wasn't as good as it could have been.
Yeah,
I mean, I agree with that. I just think where this is concerned, obviously depending on which cut you watch, but the sort of the melodrama side of the, as I said before, the love or destiny type thing. Fine, great, do something new, but didn't quite stick the landing on it, though.
No. Thinking of the love or destiny thing, do you think that there was supposed to be a subplot of Pat being pregnant?
That would have improved the film.
I think that's kind of the subtext, isn't it? I don't think it's ever explicitly said.
No, it's not explicitly said. And at one point she says, I would be like your wife then. So they're not actually married either, which, to be fair, was... kind of, yeah. That was kind of.
I thought they were
down
married.
On 50s.
Yeah, that was. I think they were married. I think there were a couple of inconsistencies in the plot where they said things that basically counteracted, or something that had been said. That was one instance. I picked up on that as well. And there was another line as well about something where you think, well, hang on, that's not what you said earlier. So I do wonder whether was the odd script issue. I think the thing about the pregnancy is that I think, having thought about it, I don't know. I said it would have improved the script, and I still think it probably would have done, but it would have painted our hero more as a bit of a villain. I think because here it's two adults making conscious choices that affect no one else.
Yeah.
If a child had been involved and he'd been determined, I'm still going out racing, I don't care, then you'd think, oh, what, Yahweh, man, give it, have a day off, But you don't kind of get that conflict. But again, what that conflict might have created a more interesting film. It just might have meant that our hero became a bit of an anti-hero.
To be fair, though, I mean, we've had this before in a couple of films. And is our protagonist, is he that likable?
No.
I don't think he is.
No, not particularly.
Well, because he's not got some grand noble aim. He just wants to win a race, like he used to win races. That's it. That's all it is. He used to be really good, then he went off to war, and he's come back, and he's not as good as he was because he's older. There's nothing about he's traumatized from the war. There's nothing about he's lost his edge for X, Y, and Z. It's just he's got older, and he's not as good as he was, and the younger drivers have caught up with him. But even that, it's just a subtext. You don't really get that said out loud. And it's like it's like we said last week with Men of Sherwood. It's like I'm not on board with our hero's motivations because I just don't really see what they are.
Yeah, that's what it boils down to. I don't care.
Yeah, it came out of his first time trial, didn't he, saying that he felt like he was going faster than he was, and I thought, and maybe it's just like when you get older and you feel like all the computer games you used to play are too fast now. So maybe it's the same kind of thing.
No, well, to be fair, I know exactly how he feels. 'Cause I remember having a few years off the old computer games and coming back to them with my son, by which point they developed these joy things in the middle. And basically, it was a war game, and I couldn't get out of the trench, and I spent most of the time spinning around shooting up at the sky, and I just thought, you know what? I'm too old. And I just put it to one side. So yes, that's what he should have thought. I'm too old, I'll retire gracefully.
Yeah, go and play chess with the lush.
with his raincoat on his head.
Yeah.
It's a smoking jacket.
Before we move on, then, do you think this could be remade now?
What, still set in the 50s or make it modern?
Well, pick a decade.
I don't see why not. You just need to give us, as we said, fully fleshed out characters, some actual peril and motivation for our protagonist. Make the protagonist a nice person that we actually like. You know, they're quite basic tropes of overcoming adversity that we've talked about, you know, like we said, Rush or Top Gun or whatever. But I mean, it's just, you know, someone's going to die, then you're going to come back and be stronger and better than ever, and you're going to save the day or win the race or whatever. I mean, these films are still getting made now. So, yeah, I don't see a problem with it being remade.
You've just hit on something with Top Gun. This film has its own Iceman.
Guido.
Yeah, Guido.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's just to pick up on what Smokey said, all these tropes have been repeated many times over the years. That's one from Top Gun, but the trope about, you know, you've got to retire, you've got to give it up, you're going to die out there, you know, that happens all the time with interesting results. My main rival is now my best friend. That happens all the time, you know, and then a plucky new rival comes along, and, you know, as I said, we've already mentioned, you've talked about Grand Prix is one, Days of Thunder, Top Gun, Rush. There's loads of them that have, but I mean, to answer your being made. They are. To answer the question, Kev, could it be made now? I think you'd have to tweak it a little bit if you wanted to make it a 21st century film based in Formula One. But I think the broad strokes. I mean, again, Smokey, you mentioned Any Given Sunday. Again, same basic plot elements are in that as well. So it can be done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think if I was to do it, I'd base it. I think I'd give it more peril and base it around sort of 70s, early 80s racing, when the fatalities were getting ridiculous and you actually had drivers going on strike. You know,
that's what Rush is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
Nicky Lauda getting his face set on fire. You know, that's a proper peril.
I mean, and his partner not wanting him to do it.
Yeah,
and him pushing himself despite that, and then having to make that decision. But I mean, you're absolutely. I mean, what you again alluded to there, though, Kev, is in these films, and let's return to this one. The car and the racing should be the centerpiece of the action. And to reiterate what I said, because they use that back projection, the technology and budget maybe wasn't there to do what they wanted to do. That's what lets this film down. Because again, you compare it to Grand Prix and they have fixed cameras on the cars, and boy, oh boy, do you feel like you're in that car with the driver, and the sound on this is pretty good actually. The sound on the cars, I quite enjoyed. I thought it was decent. But that's what lets this film down is that those sequences should be the dramatic and the action centerpiece of the film. And here, the stock footage works really well. They've edited it really nicely. It works really well, but it really intersects badly with the close-ups.
Yeah, agreed.
I do like the fact that the actors do act like racing drivers when they're in front of the back projection, because you don't get the usual wildly rotating hands. You know,
they're driving in a straight line.
Yeah, they are pretty much determined, you know, and they've got this one look and they don't move a great deal. So there is that in the favour, I suppose. At least they act like racing drivers in this.
Yeah, that's true. And they do seem to follow the track of what is occurring behind them.
True. Yeah.
Their body movement and their hands movement does sync up pretty well. So yeah, absolutely. I'll give them credit for that.
Okay then. Final scores and any final thoughts on it?
I think anything else will just be really reiterating what we've already said, which is
pretty clear.
Yeah, it's another one of those Hammer films that we've encountered quite a lot, which is that it's a bit of a missed opportunity. As Ben says, make the racing the action forefront of the movie, base it on that. That would be great, but they don't. I mean, we haven't really mentioned him apart from to say that Richard Conte, his character, is rather unlikable, but I also don't think he's very well suited to this part. I think bizarrely, I think he underacts certain scenes and then he overacts other scenes.
Yeah.
And it's a weird balance that he doesn't quite get right with it.
It's a weird age gap again we've got going with him and his leading lady as well. That's quite
there is,
awkward.
Mary Alden. I mean, she was fine, but she wasn't exactly given much to do.
No, except look Mardy a lot.
Yeah, stand there, look upset.
Yeah.
Look pretty and upset.
Yeah.
Yeah, just do that. And, fine, she did it all right. but no, again, to use a word I used earlier, this is flimsy. And I don't think it really matters which cut you watch. They're both, that it's the film is what it is. So yeah, it's just a basic drama, and one I was quite bored with both times I watched it. So, but as I say, some of the racing stuff is all right. Paul Carpenter, great to see him again, and he was the best bit about the film, to be honest. So I'll give it a 5. It's bang average. I can't get excited to give it any more. So yeah, a 5 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, I reiterated the same points about about Peter Wells, about the main guy, Richard Conte. I thought he was miscast, but everyone's miscast. They're all too old.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's a bit of a charisma void in this as well. It was. I think I liked it slightly better than you, Smokes. I give it a 6. I thought it was quite watchable, and I like sports films. I like films like this, which maybe helps as well. I'm not saying that you don't. Obviously, I'm just saying maybe I'm being more sympathetic to it. But it was okay. It could have been great if they'd had the budget and maybe the sort of confidence in their convictions to carry through some of the plots that went nowhere, and maybe make it a bit more gritty. I think that's what it lacks. Ironically, for a film called Mask of Dust, it's not a particularly gritty film. So yeah, 6 out of 10 for me.
Yeah.
What are you, Kevin?
Oh, I'm sorry, but this is only a 3 out of 10 because it's more mellow than drama. It's only certain parts of it that really do elevate it, and I found it very hard work. It didn't help matters that I watched it so many times either. Just comparing the cuts, it's bizarre because you can see that they had the makings of a good film, and like you said, they just dropped the ball with everything. They've just not carried anything through to its natural conclusion. It's just a 3. I didn't get on with this film at all. But then I don't really like sports films. I don't really know a great deal about Formula One. So, it's like...
Neither did the filmmaker.
Good point, yeah. I mean, you might as well just show me a film about horse racing. I ain't got a clue about that either. So has this give you more of a thirst for Formula One or just more racing car films?
Yeah, more racing car films, absolutely.
I definitely want to check out Grand Prix because I've still never seen that.
Oh,
so
recommended.
I'll be watching that.
Better than this.
Yeah.
Not difficult.
Now, as you'll have heard there, we mentioned that the rear projection element was a bit of a letdown. But any fan of classic cinema will know it's a staple movie production tool and has been for decades. And here to tell you more about it is Smokey.
We've all experienced it, haven't we? Sat, snuggled under our He-Man blankets, protected from the coarse world outside by diving into a cinematic world to forget about our troubles for just a couple of hours. A few drinks, maybe some popcorn, a reassuring look from a loved one, or a satisfying purr or yawn from a furry companion. When the inevitable happens, the character on screen is driving and their hands are careering all over the steering wheel, and the road behind them is going in the complete opposite direction. Alright, I did lay that on a bit thick, but the case is still valid. Rear projection in film can sometimes be rather distracting. I do think, however, we need to give today's subject, Mask of Dust, something of a buy. It is, after all, a film about motor racing, and while such things were still very much in their infancy, you do have to imagine that sticking any of their leading men in any of these cars might have been considered somewhat dangerous. Much safer to plonk them in a car and stick on a film behind them of a racetrack. As we've talked about before on a few occasions, as time marches on, so does technology. And whilst I agree that rear projection can oftentimes look somewhat clunky and frustrating, it's still quite a clever way of achieving the desired effect. Maybe we just think we're beyond that now, which is fair enough. Technology can show us the Titanic sinking, battles in space, and even more remarkably, that a wild bear can do a bunch of cocaine and go on a kill-crazy rampage. Rear projection had been around for a little while before it was properly put to use in the 1930s. But three very important components were needed before it could be rolled out en masse. The first was the upgrade needed for the cameras to shift from the silent era to the talkies. Secondly, Eastman Kodak's introduction of panchromatic film stock in 1928 allowed for the camera to expose the projected background more than orthochromatic stocks, making it look less faint than it did before. Finally, the larger film gauges beginning to emerge in the late 1920s demanded more powerful projection lamps, which were subsequently available for making the rear projection screen brighter and thus more properly exposed. In 1930, Fox Film Corporation was the first to use rear projection technique with their films Lilium and then Just Imagine, and were subsequently awarded a technical Oscar for their work the next year. Shortly after this debut, Paramount Pictures refined the technique, starting in 1933, and developed several new methods, such as syncing three projectors with the same background plate for more even and bright exposure. As front projection and blue screen effects became more widespread and less costly, rear projection has been rendered largely obsolete. However, examples can still be seen in more modern fare, such as Pulp Fiction, Aliens, and Terminator 2. I guess we can't be too hard on Mask of Dust, because when you think about it, over the last year or so, we've just come out of Sherwood Forest, we've been to Paris, and the stately homes and manors have provided some very lovely looking backdrops. Hammer is moving in the right direction, because, and let's be honest here, we could very easily still be in Blackpool.
Thanks for that, Smokey. And with that, we're almost at an end for this episode. A reminder, you can shoot us an email if you like, and you'll also find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Also, if you'd like to support us and get some extra benefits in the process, you can do so at patreon.com/househammerpod. The Hidden Room tier now includes a film library which we'll be adding to over the months, as well as our bonus podcast series where we take a look at each episode of the Hammer House of Horror TV series. There's also the Handshake from Hammer series, where I'm joined by a very special co-presenter to draw your attention to some vintage movies which are tenuously connected to Hammer, but are not themselves Hammer productions. All of this and more for just $5 a month. Right, well, the checkered flag has been waved for this episode. Smokey is wearing a laurel wreath, as is his way. Kev's spraying the champagne around, at least I hope it's champagne, and I'm off to remonstrate with the stewards. Until next time, it's goodbye from me, Ben Taylorson.
From me, Smokey.
And from me, Kev Moore.
But rest assured we'll be back soon, when an adventurer is hired by a German millionaire to help a Polish scientist escape to the West. I'm predicting there'll be dodgy accents. Lots of dodgy accents. And that's just us three. Take care.